Hi there, it's Kristen from k.becca, and in this video, I'll be showing you how to make a clean and simple birthday card using digital cut files from the k.becca shop. I'll include a link to the cut file that I used in the description area below the video, but this method will work for lots of different cut files, as well as metal dies. First, in Silhouette Studio, I centered the vertical HB2U cut file inside a 3 3/4 wide by 5-inch tall rectangle, which is a little smaller than a standard A2 size card. I'll be using Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens to color the letters, so I cut the piece from Strathmore Bristol paper, which works really well with the Zig Clean Color pens. I'll be using a darker and a lighter shade of a similar color for each letter, and all of the colors that I used will be listed on the side of the screen here, and also in the description area below the video. To start, I'll color the first letter using a Zig Clean Color pen in a darker shade of pink. I'll color just the bottom half of the letter with this shade of pink, and then I'll bring in the lighter shade of pink and brush that up from within the area where the darker shade is to start blending the colors upward. You can see how easily the color starts to move, and these pens really do blend so well on the Strathmore Bristol. I want to make sure that I have a gradient of color, so I don't want to blend the colors out too much, but if I do, I can just go back in with the darker shade again and blend it out again with the lighter shade. Before I'm done coloring this letter, I'll go back and blend the color in any areas of the letter that I missed earlier. After I'm finished with the lighter shade of pink, I'll scribble it off onto a piece of scrap paper until any of the darker shade that made its way onto the brush tip is gone. I always keep a piece of scrap paper handy when I'm working with the Zig Clean colors, so I can scribble off color when I need to. Okay, so I'm finished coloring the first letter, and you can see that some of the color got onto my craft mat. I can easily clean that up with a wet baby wipe, and then I'll take a dry paper towel and quickly wipe off any moisture that's left on the mat from the baby wipe. If you don't have a craft mat, you can place a piece of scrap paper under each letter while you work so you won't get your work surface dirty. I'm going to repeat the coloring and cleanup process for each of the letters, and I wanted to mention that you might notice that the letter B, which I'm working on here, is a lighter shade of green in the final card. I had initially assembled the card with the darker green letter B, but I thought that it was just too dark and didn't go well with the rest of the colors on the letters, so I cut another B and colored it with lighter shades of green that I felt went with the other colors better. The shades of green that I used in the final card are the ones that are listed on the screen and in the description area below the video. Okay, I've just finished cleaning up after coloring in the last letter, and I'll set all of the letters aside for right now. I cut a piece of white cardstock to 3 3/4 inches wide by 5 inches tall, which is the same size as the piece that I die cut earlier. I want to add a little bit of texture here, and I'll be using the We Are Memory Keepers Next Level Gemstone embossing folder to emboss the cardstock. If you haven't heard of these embossing folders, then I highly recommend checking them out. I love the deep impression and the texture that they give, and this folder is my absolute favorite in the line. I think that these embossing folders are a little bit thicker than regular embossing folders, so initially I had trouble running this through my embossing machine with the normal plate combo that I use. It was just too thick. Instead of the regular mat, I ended up using about 6 sheets of cardstock as a shim, and I was able to run everything through my die cutting machine without problem. So just keep in mind that you may need to experiment a little with shims to get these folders to run smoothly through your machines. Totally worth it though, because the results are so cool. After I'm finished embossing the cardstock, I'll line the HB2U rectangle piece over top, and I'll temporarily tape it in place on my work surface with a little piece of painter's tape so it doesn't move around during the next step. I'll bring the letters from earlier back in, and I want them to have a little dimension, so I'm going to be adhering them to the embossed piece with dimensional foam adhesive that I cut to fit using non-stick scissors. Once the back of the letter is covered with adhesive, I'll peel off the pieces of protective paper and I'll press the letter right inside the coordinating die cut area to adhere it to the card. Having the die cut rectangle piece taped in place makes it so easy to perfectly position the letters, and this part goes pretty quickly as a result. After I'm finished adhering all of the letters, I'll remove the tape, and then I'll carefully remove the die cut rectangle piece, one letter at a time. Perfectly centered letters. And I will be making a second card with the die cut rectangle piece too. Now, the only thing that's left to do is to adhere the finished card front to an A2 size card base. I'll do this by first covering the back with double-sided adhesive. And I'm being a little more careful here than usual because there's a lot of texture going on, and I want to make sure that I get good coverage with the adhesive runner. Lastly, I'll turn the piece over and press it in place on the center of the card base to finish the card. I hope that you can see all of the great texture here. That embossing folder really does take it to the next level. You can find a full list of supplies used in this project in the description area below, or in the area below the video if you're watching on k.becca.com. If you enjoyed this project and would like to see more videos like this one, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you'll tune in again soon.